I'm Annette of Tastefully Thai Cooking Classes, and today we're going to make lemongrass soup. In Thailand, that's called tom yum. And today we're going to make it with shrimp. So it would be tom yum goong. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our chicken broth in the wok and get that started. Get that boiling. And while that's starting to boil, I'm going to tell you about some of the ingredients that we use in lemongrass soup. Now, I suggest that you use a low sodium chicken broth. You could use a vegetable broth instead if you like. I suggest a low sodium. If you can't find that or that's not what you have on hand, then the ingredient that you're going to want to change a little bit is how much fish sauce you put in, because this is what gives it the saltiness. So if you can't find a low sodium chicken broth, then you're going to want to cut down on your fish sauce a little bit. So we use fish sauce, a tablespoon and a half. The recipe for this is on my website, tastefullythai.net. Let me tell you about a couple of the ingredients here while this heats up. One of the things we're going to use in this, on my recipe, I call it chili jam. I see that this particular brand is called chili paste in soybean oil. It's kind of a smoky, I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of a little bit spicy. It's got a smoky kind of a taste to it. In Thailand, we call it nam prik pao. And another thing we use is palm sugar. You could substitute some brown sugar for it, but palm sugar is the authentic ingredient to use. Palm sugar is kind of pasty, and for this recipe we're going to use a teaspoon of it. Another one of the ingredients that we're going to use today is a ginger. Now on the recipe it says to use either ginger or galangal, which is the right root that you're supposed to use in this soup, but it's a little hard to find. So what I do is I buy galangal down at the Asian food store. It's about an hour from my house. So when I go get galangal, it looks like ginger. That's what this is ginger. And I bring it home and I slice it up and I put it in a Ziploc bag and I freeze it that way. So the next time I want to make the soup, I can just grab out a few slices of it and throw it right in the soup. It's a great way to have it on hand because it doesn't last forever in the fridge. So that way I can have it on hand whenever I need it. When you're looking for ginger or galangal, you want to find one that it's not shrivelly. You want to find a lighter color, not the real dark colors. If it's dark or it's shriveled up, it tells you that it's been sitting around a long time and it's not real fresh. Another thing that we're going to use today is lemongrass, and I've already cut this because I grow lemongrass in my garden. It kind of does look like a really tall grass. The top of this, which has already been cut off, is real grassy-like. And I grow it in my garden, and then in the fall, I'll harvest it all, and I'll cut it in smaller pieces, and then I freeze this too. So this also can be frozen and ready to go for this soup whenever you want it. And then of course we got to make it a little spicy. Thai food is usually spicy. So I have Thai peppers that I grew in my garden. You could use any kind of hot pepper you like. And again, I froze these in my freezer, and I have them on hand all the time. So your freezer is a great way to keep some of these ingredients so that they're ready to go into a soup. This this chicken broth is coming up to a boil here. And so once it gets hot enough, we're going to add several things to it. We're going to add shallots, or a red onion. You could use red onion. And we're also going to add the spiciness to it, the peppers. You could use a serrano pepper or a jalapeno. If you like it really spicy, you could use a habanero. But I'm just going to slice these. These have been frozen and they've kind of thawed out as I was sitting here waiting for this to start this video. But I'm just going to slice them a little bit. That way it will impart the spiciness that you want in this, but you don't have to necessarily eat the pepper, which might give you a little too much of a bite. You can see them and pick them out as you're eating the soup. So I'm going to throw these hot peppers in there. That's boiling away now. And I'm going to throw in the shallots, about a 1/4 cup of sliced shallots. And I'm going to add the galangal, or if you have ginger, use ginger. I'm going to use a few slices of that. And I'm just going to let that boil for a minute, and those flavors are going to start to mix in there. Oh, and I'm going to add the lemongrass as well. And this has been frozen, so it's kind of mushy. It's not going to really matter in the soup. You're putting it in there for the flavor anyway. Usually when you eat lemongrass soup, you kind of eat around this and the ginger as well. So I'm just going to kind of cut them in bigger pieces. In my recipe it says to smash them or bruise them, but this has been frozen, so it's kind of mushy. So I'm just going to put it in there like this. The recipe calls for 1 stalk of lemongrass. So I'm just going to add in 1 whole stalk here. I'm going to cut each little piece in half just to make sure those flavors come out of there. Okay, so that's boiling really well. Another thing we're going to use in our recipe today is mushrooms. Now, you could use oyster mushrooms, you could use straw mushrooms that come in a can usually. I happen to like the button mushrooms, and I usually break them into smaller pieces. You want about a cupful of these, and I'm going to go ahead and throw those in. And this soup, you can make it as spicy or as mild as you like. When we first moved to Thailand, I didn't really like this soup. I didn't like the idea of that lemony soup. It just didn't seem right for a soup, but as we lived there and tried it many different times, I really grew to love this soup. Ordered it in restaurants all the time. So I'm going to put about a cupful or so of mushrooms in there. And then I'm going to add a tomato. And the best kind of tomato to use for this is a Roma or a plum tomato. And I just got this out of my garden a little bit ago. A little bit greener than I would like, but I'll just take that green end off of there. And I'm just going to cut it in a few pieces. We're going to throw this in here too. Okay, so I'm going to let that boil for a little bit. Okay, this has been boiling for a couple minutes now, and we started off with the chicken broth. I added the shallots, the lemongrass, then the ginger and the chilies in there, so that's all boiling together, and then I added the tomatoes and the mushrooms in there. Now, this is that chili jam or chili paste. I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of that. So I'm guessing 1.5 tablespoons. This gives it a really great flavor. There's a little bit of sweetness in this too, and it also gives it a great color that it's supposed to be. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of this palm sugar. Now remember, all of these ingredients that you might wonder about can be found in great explanation and pictures of them and everything on my website, in the ingredient guide on my website. So go there and check out these ingredients. You can see a close-up picture of each of them and a little information about each of them. I've seen this palm sugar also labeled as coconut sugar. While this boils, I do want to tell you that you don't have to make this in a wok. I'm doing this so that the camera can see what's going on here a little easier. Usually I make tom yum in a pot, in a saucepan on the stove. But if you do it in a wok, it's way quicker because you've got so much more surface area heating up. Okay, so I added the chili jam and I added the palm sugar, and now we're going to put the fish sauce in there. Got 1.5 tablespoons of fish sauce. That cooled it down slightly, so let me take a second here. Get that back up to a boil. And I'm going to add the shrimp or the prawns. And remember, don't overcook those. Those can only be in there until they have just turned pink. So I'm going to put those in there, and then I'm going to turn off my heat as soon as they're cooked. And the very last thing we're going to add to it is adding some lime juice. That's back up to a great rolling boil again. So I'm going to add my shrimp in there. And as soon as those turn pink all the way through, then I'm going to turn off my heat. This is great. You can make this really spicy, you could make it mild. It should have a real lemony flavor to it, but also a little bit of sweetness in it as well. All right, those shrimp are starting to cook. They're not quite done yet. Give it a second or two. Now, one thing about adding lime to anything, especially to Thai food, you always want to add it right at the end, just before you cut off the heat or right after you cut off the heat. It seems like when you put lime into something and then let it cook, you lose that sour flavor, at least while it's boiling, and you taste it and you can't taste the lime. You can't taste that sourness. So you want to put it in right at the end or right after you've turned off the heat. All right, so those shrimp, those prawns are done. And so I'm going to shut off the heat. There we go. And I'm going to add some lime juice. And I'm going to add, it's about a quarter, couple tablespoons of lime juice. So the lemongrass is going to give it that sour flavor, but also so is the lime. Got that cut off, the fire turned off, and got that added in there. Let me make sure that the seasonings are right first. Yeah, they're perfect. Got a little bit of heat from those peppers, really good, and the lime gave it just the right amount of sourness. Okay, I'm going to plate this for you. All right. This is a great soup to serve along with rice and a stir fry. I always like to serve my Thai food with a couple of different items and rice. Maybe I'll do a curry and some stir-fried vegetables or something like that. This soup is a great wintertime thing, but it's also a fresh enough thing that it's good in the summertime too. It's got that lemony flavor, and so it's not real heavy. So I'm going to plate that, and then we always garnish it with a little bit of cilantro or some greens. And there you go. It's a great meal with rice. Love the little bit of sweetness and spice in it, and the lemon. Thai cooking is a lot about the balance of different flavors, the sweetness, the sour, and the heat, all combined together in the right balance. And so this is a great soup.